The story began in the Great Swan Nation, within the Swanjing Grand Tutor's manor. Inside the Grand Hall, a woman was pouring wine into an ornate cup for an elderly man. Everyone in attendance respectfully addressed him as the Grand Tutor. The air was filled with celebration as the guests bowed and offered their blessings, wishing him a happy birthday. Over the past 50 years, the Grand Tutor, Li Fan, had risen from poverty to become one of the most powerful men in the nation. His influence overshadowed the world itself, and the tale of his life could easily fill a 1,000,000-word novel. He often reflected on his past, how he had once transmigrated into this world as nothing more than a poor, struggling scholar. Now he lived surrounded by luxury and beautiful women. It seemed there was nothing more one could wish for. The peace was suddenly broken when a man rushed into the hall, shouting in panic. He claimed that fire was falling from the sky, a divine sign, an auspicious omen, heading straight toward the Grand Tutor's manor. Li Fan hurried outside to see for himself. In the distance, two figures descended from the heavens, flying through the air. One of them shouted for Dao Suatsi not to push him too far. Li Fan realized with shock that these were cultivators, beings of great spiritual power. The people around him, including the women, fell to their knees, believing that immortals had appeared. But Li Fan felt no joy, only fear and confusion. The cultivator in jade robes called out to the other man, addressing him as Cao Hong. He demanded to know if Cao Hong truly believed he could escape simply by fleeing to this land of mortal extinction. He ordered him to hand over the cultivation method he had obtained, warning that this matter would not end until one of them was dead. Cao Hong laughed bitterly, saying it was absurd to make such a demand. He admitted that he had been trapped at the foundation establishment stage for hundreds of years, unable to form his core. Now that his lifespan was nearly exhausted and his body was on the verge of turning to dust, he had finally acquired the method to reach the golden core stage. There was no way he would give it up. The man in jade robes nodded slowly, acknowledging his words. He said that the road to the golden core was indeed a lonely one, and though many methods existed, countless cultivators remained forever trapped at the lower stage. Then his tone turned cold as he added that with a method to achieve immortality before him, he could not possibly let him live. Cao Hong sighed. After a century of brotherhood, they were now ready to draw their blades over a mere sliver of survival. He admitted he was no match for his opponent and would likely die that day, but he wondered aloud whether the jade-robed man could endure the intense clash of immortal and mortal energies in a place so filled with mortals. The jade-robed cultivator unsheathed his gleaming sword and charged at Cao Hong, who also unleashed his power. The collision of their might sent shockwaves rippling across the city. Explosions tore through the manor, shaking the heavens and earth alike. Li Fan and the others watched in horror as everything was consumed by blinding light and thunderous destruction. A moment later, he found himself buried beneath rubble, surrounded by silence and ruin. Struggling to rise, he saw the lifeless bodies of his wife and children beside him. His magnificent manor lay in ruins, and the once prosperous Swanjing city had become a wasteland of fire and blood. Everywhere, he looked only shattered corpses and broken buildings. He realized, in utter despair, that not even 1 in 100 people would survive this calamity, all caused by the battle between two cultivators who had appeared out of nowhere. His body trembled as he drew a breath, then broke into loud laughter. He could hardly believe it. Cultivators in this world. From the moment he had become an official, he had used every ounce of his power to search for any trace of the immortal path. After rising to the rank of imperial precursor, standing above all others, he had continued that search without rest. He had traveled north to the icy seas, south to the great ocean, east to the void abyss, and west to the endless mountains. Yet throughout the vast lands of Great Swan, he had never found even the faintest sign of an immortal presence. In time, he had given up, resigning himself to old age. Now, seeing those two beings of unimaginable power, he wondered if fate was merely toying with him. Were they truly immortals? And if so, where had they come from? He formed a hand seal and whispered a command. Huan Jin. A glowing orb appeared before him, pulsing with light as a voice echoed, "Charging complete," virtualizing the current scene and returning to the anchor point. Huanjin, the name he had given his unique treasure. Its power was to turn truth into illusion and reality into falsehood. It allowed him to convert his true experiences into simulated memories and return to a fixed point in time, the very moment he had first crossed into this world. This was already his second life since arriving in the Great Swan Nation. In his first life, though filled with ambition, he had been nothing more than an ordinary man. He had longed to become the top scholar, yet failed the imperial examinations time and time again. By the age of 30, he had abandoned that dream and turned to business. He became a wealthy commoner, took a wife, raised children, and lived a quiet, uneventful life. Only when he grew old and lay on his deathbed did the treasure within him awaken, the Huanjin. That awakening marked the beginning of his second life, one of meteoric rise and unstoppable success. Once charged, the Huanjin system allowed him to restart his life, returning to a chosen moment of failure to begin anew. Yet he could not reset just yet. There were still matters that demanded his attention in this lifetime. He summoned one of his warriors and ordered, "Command the Wu Wei battalion stationed outside Xuanjing to march into Xuanjing and restore order." After the catastrophe, most of Xuanjing's buildings lay in ruins. Under his command, the loyal Wu Wei battalion swiftly took control. They hastened the city's reconstruction while he remained in the military camp to oversee recovery and secretly dispatched agents to track the two cultivators' whereabouts. A month passed, and the ruined city began to show faint signs of life. Several months later, it had slowly come back to life. Then one day, an aide reported that there was still no trace of the two cultivators. He realized he should never have placed his hopes on such a pursuit. There was nothing left in this life worth clinging to. Calling upon Huanjin once more, he activated its power. The orb's light surrounded him, virtualizing the scene as it prepared to return him to his initial anchor point. He accepted the process calmly. His body began to regress, time folding backward as memories of his life flashed before his eyes. As the light consumed him, he spoke into the void. "In 50 years' time, I will still be waiting for you in Xuanjing City." The Huanjing reset began. His life returned to its first anchor year. And with quiet resolve, his voice echoed one last verse. "Wealth and honor are but fleeting clouds to me. In the next life, I shall hunt immortals."
The system notified him that he had returned to Anchor Year 1. Overjoyed, he acted recklessly, causing trouble so often that his aunt was forced to make him drink exorcism water from the village witch. Half a year later, he took the provincial examination. Though he ranked in the lower 30s, he succeeded in becoming a Jurin, bringing honor to his ancestors. In Anchor Year 2, he took the metropolitan examination and passed. His performance in the palace examination was exceptional, earning him second place and the title of Jinshi. Soon after, he paraded triumphantly through Xuanjing City and was appointed as a county magistrate. By Anchor Year 3, he began cultivating a team of trusted subordinates. Together, they successfully developed batches of explosives and matchlock guns. In Anchor Year 5, a group of refugees rebelled against the Prince of Longya's manor. He personally led the troops to suppress the uprising and rescued the prince's family. The Prince of Longya was deeply grateful to him. By Anchor Year 6, he was promoted to prefect of Junhai Prefecture and married the daughter of the Vice Minister of Personnel. In Anchor Year 7, his wife gave birth to a son. By Anchor Year 10, the Princess of Longya gave birth to a child of her own. He personally visited to offer his congratulations and present a gift. In Anchor Year 15, the Emperor passed away. The Prince of Longya ascended the throne, changing the era name to Xuanjing. Emperor Xuanling summoned him to the capital, promoted him to Vice Minister of War, and ordered him to lead troops to quell a rebellion. By Anchor Year 18, the rebellion was completely crushed. Emperor Xuanling revoked his military authority, elevated him to Minister of War, and appointed him Grand Tutor to the Crown Prince. In Anchor Year 20, the Empress was suddenly accused of witchcraft. Enraged, Emperor Xuanling confined her to the Cold Palace. The Crown Prince secretly sought Li Fan's help, and he agreed without hesitation. Through discreet investigation, he uncovered the true culprit and cleared the Empress's name. However, Emperor Xuanling still refused to release her from confinement. By anchor year 25, Li Fan received a secret report that someone had accused him of privately visiting the Empress in the Cold Palace. That same year, Emperor Xuanling was assassinated on his way back to the capital. In the chaos that followed, officials retrieved the Empress from the Cold Palace, and soon after, the Crown Prince ascended the throne as Emperor Kangning. In anchor year 26, Li Fan was ennobled as Grand Tutor and appointed Grand Secretary of the Deliberation Council, reaching the pinnacle of power as a minister. Using his position, he built political factions and eliminated his rivals, consolidating his control over the imperial court. By anchor year 30, the people of the realm knew only the Grand Tutor's name. The emperor had become a shadow. In anchor year 31, the Empress Dowager gave birth to a son, secretly fathered by Li Fan. By anchor year 38, Emperor Kangning succumbed to depression and died. In anchor year 40, the Empress passed away from illness. By year 45, his wife too had died, and by year 46, his eldest son followed her to the grave. In anchor year 50, 2 immortals descended from the eastern abyssal ruins, destroying Xuanjing City in an instant. Li Fan barely escaped with his life. The system's voice echoed once more, informing him that the simulation had ended. He was offered 4 choices. First, he could retain 1 item from this simulation. Second, he could inherit the cultivation realm he had achieved. Third, he could preserve the simulation memories of someone closely related to him, allowing that person to inherit them. Or fourth, he could forego all options to accelerate the system's charging progress. He began to question whether the reality before him was genuine or merely an illusion, just another simulation born from the system's power. Perhaps after a certain point, the line between truth and falsehood no longer existed. He reminded himself to review the 4 choices before him. After examining them, he realized that the first and second options offered little advantage at this stage. If he truly intended to embark on the path of cultivation, those might be helpful later, but not now. The third option, to pass memories on to another person, was far too uncertain. No one could predict what kind of person one might become after inheriting decades of experiences. Stability, he concluded, was paramount. The truth-returning ability, which turned reality into illusion, required constant charging. When he suffered a fatal blow, it would automatically consume that stored energy to protect him. That was the reason he had escaped death multiple times in his previous life. Considering this, the fourth option, to accelerate the charging progress, was clearly the most prudent choice. When the system displayed his current status, he discovered that he had already lived through 3 complete lifetimes, totaling 166 years. He was astonished. His mental age limit, once around 900 years in the previous life, had now surpassed 1,000. But he knew that carrying too many lifetimes' worth of memories placed immense strain on the soul. When that burden became too great, it crushed the spirit itself. This was known as the erosion of time. Still, he understood that the limit of one's mental age would continue to increase alongside mental fortitude. As long as he embarked on the path of immortal cultivation, none of this would matter. His new goal was clear: to uncover the secrets of cultivation from the 2 immortals who would descend on Xuanjing City 50 years from now. By preparing in advance, he might have a chance against them. He wondered what he could rely on besides gunpowder and firearms. The immortal mortal miasma they had mentioned came to mind. A faint smile crossed his face. He could not afford to wait idly for 50 years. Since they had come from the eastern abyssal ruins, he decided to send agents there to investigate its depths. He reflected on his previous life. The most terrifying thing, he realized, was to live without purpose. Many nights he had awoken beside the Empress Dowager, feeling an overwhelming emptiness. His hands, skilled, calculating, and powerful, had brought him everything a mortal could desire, yet left him hollow.
He had already stood at the peak of worldly authority. There was nowhere higher to climb. Power and pleasure, repeated through lifetimes, had become tasteless like chewing wax. Perhaps, he thought, if not for the arrival of those two cultivators, he would have eventually chosen to end his own life. But their appearance revealed a new path, one beyond mortality. He resolved to pursue immortality. He desired eternal life, and no one would stand in his way. He spoke their names quietly, a vow etched in determination. Da Huanzhi Ko Hong. In 50 years, he would face them again. With the experience of 2 lifetimes guiding him, everything unfolded as smoothly as a river flowing to the sea. He still chose to participate in the imperial examinations, but this time, armed with decades of accumulated wisdom and knowledge, his essays surpassed those of every other candidate. He achieved first place in the provincial, metropolitan, and palace examinations, earning the title of Triple First. His name shook the realm. Afterward, he once again chose to serve as an official in Wen County. Though the imperial court initially opposed the decision, his fame and precise understanding of political temperament won their approval. Upon arriving in Wen County, he quickly secured firm control and began promoting subordinates he had trusted in his previous life. By Anchor Year 4, he had secretly found someone suitable to act as a double for the Prince of Langya and began training him as a loyal subordinate. In Anchor Year 5, he ordered his men to disguise themselves as refugees and stage an attack on the Prince of Langya's manor. Publicly, he appeared to suppress the rebellion, but in truth, he coordinated the attack from within, rescuing the prince's family while ensuring that his double took the prince's place.
In the 9th year of the Anchor calendar, the wedding between the Prince of Lanya and the granddaughter of the Chief Grand Secretary was held as scheduled. That night, he quietly entered the bridal chamber and consummated his marriage with the Princess of Lanya. By the 10th year, the princess gave birth to a son, his own flesh and blood. In the 15th year, the emperor's health began to fail. Upon receiving the imperial edict of succession, he rushed to the capital with his most trusted subordinates. After the Prince of Lanya ascended the throne, he skillfully placed his own loyal men throughout the imperial court. With the covert cooperation of the Chief Grand Secretary, he swiftly gained control of the empire's affairs. By the 20th year, after installing his son as emperor, he took the title of Grand Tutor. Stepping out from behind the scenes, he once again wielded absolute power over the realm. Under his will, the great nation of Xuan did not stagnate. Instead, its progress quickened, the gears of its development turning even faster than before. At the Grand Tutor's manor in the 35th year, he inquired about the abyssal ruins. Someone confirmed that the ruins dispersed for half a day every 15 years. The immortal-seeking camp had been ordered to remain stationed beside the abyss, observing it day and night. A few days earlier, they had made a breakthrough. When the thick fog lifted, a faint light was seen shining from deep within the chasm. Through a telescope, they observed strange, inverted landscapes. Though each witness saw something slightly different, all described a vision of 100,000 mountains rising and falling, majestic structures faintly visible among them. Majestic cities stretched across vast plains, alive with bustling crowds, no fewer than 1 million souls. Above them floated a city in the sky, glowing with rosy Taoist light, where rare birds and exotic beasts soared freely. Li Pan asked if the sight truly came from within the abyssal ruins, and whether anyone had reached the bottom. The observer explained that countless attempts had been made, but each time, as soon as they descended beyond a certain depth, a violent astral wind tore them apart. Not even the strongest armor could withstand its power. He nodded slightly, gazing toward the distant sky, realizing that he would have to wait longer still. By the 50th year of the Anchor calendar, within the Great Xuan nation, 2 powerful entities approached from afar at immense speed. One of the men warned the other not to press too far, but before he could finish, fiery bullets burst from all directions. The man reacted instantly, blocking the strikes as flames roared around him, his eyes narrowing in anger as he demanded to know who dared launch such a sudden attack.
The attacks came from the soldiers below, firing endlessly. The man stopped the barrage with his barrier, surprised by the bullet's power. Using his abilities, he seized one of their guns and examined it carefully. The weapon was fascinating, constructed with intricate mechanical parts instead of spell formations, and relying on the explosive force of mortal materials rather than spiritual energy. He never imagined that, after countless millennia, mortals exiled to this immortal forsaken land could develop something so ingenious, yet he pitied them. Such a weapon could only function here, in a realm where the great Tao was incomplete. Beyond this land, it would be nothing more than a heap of useless scrap metal. With a flick of his hand, he burned the weapons to ash. His voice was cold as he spoke. Mere mortals daring to raise their hands against cultivators like him. For a brief moment he had felt a sliver of guilt, but now they were simply courting death. Drawing upon his Tao technique, fire dragons roar, flames burst from his body, twisting into dragons that tore through the city. The inferno consumed everything in its path, and within moments the entire city was ablaze. But then his expression changed. He was shocked. Despite his devastating technique, many mortals still stood alive amidst the flames. It was impossible. His attack was not something mere humans could survive. The man beside him, clad in jade armor, quickly explained. The mortals' hidden weapons had been soaked in human blood and tainted by the immortal miasm. Their Tao techniques had been weakened the moment they entered this place. They had been ambushed from the start. Clearly the enemy had prepared for their arrival. The jade-armored cultivator warned that the land itself felt strange and urged that they should not linger. But before they could leave, a voice echoed through the air, taunting them. It said that if they fled today, then by tomorrow news of their discovery, the core formation method, would spread across the entire cultivation world. The jade cultivator froze. That was impossible. Only the two of them knew the method. How could the secret have leaked? His companion frowned, unsure who had spoken. Suddenly, cannon fire erupted from below. Enraged, the fiery cultivator shouted, "They were courting death!" unleashing another wave of flames. His companion warned him to be careful, as a cannonball exploded before them. The blast painted the sky red with blood. When the smoke cleared, the two once mighty cultivators lay on the ground, surrounded by mortal soldiers. One soldier stepped forward and announced that by order of the Grand Tutor, if they surrendered peacefully, their lives would be saved. The jade cultivator let out a trembling laugh. "Surrender, without a fight," he muttered bitterly. As he spoke, a ring floated toward him, the ring of his fallen comrade. A final message echoed in his mind, urging him to take it and go. Moments later, the fiery cultivator drew his last breath. His fire dragon rose one final time, soaring above the burning city before transforming into roots of flame. Then its form began to fade. A solemn voice spoke from above. "Foundation Establishment Cultivator Ko Hong, who cultivated for 200 years and achieved his Tao foundation within 5, has fallen. With the wondrous time of the Q Dragon branch, in this immortal forsaken land, he was besieged by 1,000 mortals and wounded by the immortal miasm. His cultivation was destroyed, his life nearly ended. Now his body has perished and his Tao returns to the heavens." The soldiers below remained silent for a moment before one spoke again. Their great Tao Zhuangzi did not wish to slaughter them. If they surrendered and ceased resistance, the Grand Tutor promised their safety. From afar, the man who had been watching everything took a deep breath. When Ko Hong died, he thought he had heard a strange sound, but it no longer mattered. Capturing an immortal in this lifetime had become impossible. He finally understood the truth. The immortal miasm was far more deadly to cultivators than anyone had ever imagined. The jade-robed man glared ahead, his voice trembling with fury. He said he did not know who the enemy was, nor what purpose they sought to achieve. But now that he and his brother had fallen victim to their schemes, one dead, his Tao completely vanished, there was nothing left to say. His eyes burned with grief and rage as he declared that he refused to accept such an outcome. He condemned the enemy for hiding behind mortals, using despicable methods like the immortal miasm, an abomination despised by all cultivators. His brother, Kohong, had perished at the hands of such cowards. To him, it was a meaningless death, one unworthy of his brother's name. Determined, the Jade Cultivator rose into the sky, his voice echoing with divine power. He said he had already witnessed his brother's Foundation establishment wondrous item, and now it was time to show them the pain of the heavens themselves. If the world stood against him, then the world would share his suffering. Positioning himself mid-air, his stance resembled that of a god descending to pass judgment. Channeling the wonders of heaven and earth, he declared his Tao Foundation, its name, Dao Zhuan. A mighty sword descended from the heavens, vast and radiant, its edge tearing through the clouds. He proclaimed that he had a sword and invited all to witness it. The colossal blade crashed down upon the city, shaking the heavens as shockwaves tore through stone and steel alike. The entire city vanished in the destruction that followed. Then, in the chaos, he activated his ability, Truth Returning. A moment later, the system's notification appeared before him. The simulation had ended. He gasped for breath as the illusion faded, his consciousness returning to reality. He realized he had reached the peak of Foundation establishment. Without the interference of the immortal miasm, even 100 lifetimes of planning would not have been enough to threaten those two cultivators. Yet the miasm's power had been far more devastating than he had ever imagined. He had assumed Kohong's brotherhood with Dao Zhuanzi with merely a convenient alliance, but now, after witnessing their actions, he understood that their bond ran deep, beyond words, beyond self-preservation. During their battle, Dao Zhuanzi had repeatedly warned Kohong of danger, and Kohong, accepting his fate, willingly handed over the core formation method before dying. Seeing Kohong's death, Dao Zhuanzi's grief turned to wrath. Unable to suppress his anguish, he had sacrificed his own life in a suicidal final strike. Their friendship had been genuine, forged through centuries of shared trials. But in the great Tao of the Golden Core, there could only be one immortal. Techniques of such magnitude could not coexist between two people, no matter how close they were. If even brothers turned against fate in this way, then what must the wider cultivation world?
The path ahead was perilous, yet he resolved not to waver. With the help of Truth Returning, as long as he remained cautious, no obstacle would be insurmountable. Last time, he had attacked both cultivators at once. Perhaps this time he could win one of them over instead. Checking his system, he noticed that his mental age had only increased by a few decades. He was nearing his limit. Counting his life before transmigration, this was already his 5th lifetime. The path to immortality was indeed arduous, and he could only hope the next 50 years would not be wasted. At the endless abyssal ruins, 35 years after the last divergence, he stood once more at the edge of the chasm. From his previous simulation, he had learned that the dense fog above the ruins dispersed once every 15 years. Today, he had come to witness it with his own eyes. Time passed in silence before a massive eruption of mist surged upward like a reverse waterfall, twisting violently toward the heavens. The storm of wind and fog raged for nearly an hour before it finally began to fade. Li Fan lifted his telescope and gazed into the depths of the abyssal ruins. According to the intelligence he gathered, every person who peered inside saw a different vision. When he looked through his own scope, what he saw made his breath catch. Mountains crumbled. The path of immortality lay dead. On the ground below was a ruined city, scarred by ancient war. He stood frozen, his heart heavy with dread, wondering what had happened there, what could have destroyed not just a city, but perhaps the entire cultivation world itself.
At anchor year 15 in Zhuanjim City, Cao Hong told the jade-robed cultivator that he was going on ahead, but before he could move far, he suddenly sensed danger. Bullets tore through the air toward him, followed by a harsh voice shouting that by the order of immortal master Dao Zhuanzi, they had been waiting for him. Cao Hong deflected the bullets, his expression darkening. He could not believe it. How could Dao Zhuanzi have known he would flee here? As he focused, he sensed a familiar corruption within the projectiles, traces of the immortal mortal miasma. A moment later, Dao Xuanzi himself appeared, his expression cold and questioning. Cao Hong confronted him immediately, calling him a despicable man for attacking his own ally. But Dao Xuanzi frowned, his tone sharp with confusion. He said the mortals attacking Cao Hong were not under his command. The miasma's presence was abnormal. Something was wrong with this place. Before either could speak further, the same mocking voice echoed across the battlefield, accusing Dao Xuanzi of betrayal. The voice shouted that they had made an agreement. If they helped him kill Cao Hong and seize the core formation method, he would lead their clan out of this immortal forsaken land. The revelation made Cao Hong's eyes flare with rage. He demanded to know if Dao Xuanzi would still deny it. Besides you and me, who else in this world could possibly know about the core formation method? Even the jade-robed cultivator was shaken. The unseen speaker truly knew details that should have been impossible to obtain. The voice continued coldly, saying they had risked their lives and incurred the wrath of the masses for the sake of the immortal mortal miasma. Now public resentment was growing, and if Dao Xuanzi could not fulfill his promise, their entire clan would soon be destroyed. The Jade Man unleashed a powerful strike toward the direction of the voice, shattering stone and steel. Yet the sound persisted, this time coming from a strange metallic box. The voice mocked him again, asking if Dao Xuanzi planned to silence them with death. The Jade Cultivator frowned in disbelief. He had never seen such a device. What sort of Dharma artifact could transmit voices like this? Suspicious, he swung his weapon once more, obliterating the box with a surge of spiritual energy. Cao Hong's fury erupted. We have known each other for hundreds of years. I never thought I had misjudged you so greatly. You want the core formation method, don't you? Why stoop to such disgraceful tricks? He raised his hand, summoning a burning dragon of fire. I won't run any more, he said coldly. If you have the skill, come and take it. His Dao technique, Flame Dragon's Wrath, roared to life, sending a blazing serpent of flame rushing toward Dao Xuanzi. The jade-robed man exhaled deeply, drawing his dark sword. He thrust it forward, and a piercing beam of energy shot into the sky to meet the oncoming dragon. The two forces collided violently, shaking the heavens with a thunderous roar. Amid the chaos, another voice rose, this one trembling with desperation. This Dao Xuanzi is fickle and vindictive. If he wins, there will be no escape for any of us. My sons, heed my command. Assist Immortal Master Cao Hong in dealing with him. Cao Hong's eyes lit up with grim satisfaction. As the saying goes, he who commits many injustices is doomed to destruction. Dao Xuanzi, you've always prided yourself on being noble. Let's see how you handle the backlash of your own treachery. Dao Xuanzi's eyes blazed with anger. Fool, he shouted. Cao Hong's voice turned cold. You fancy yourself clever, but now you are abandoned by all. This is what it means to be a victim of your own cunning. With a single motion, he channeled his Dao. I've mastered a new technique, just in time to send you on your way. Dao technique, Imprisoning Dragon. A blazing cage of fire materialized around Dao Xuanzi, sealing him in a vortex of roaring flames. But Dao Xuanzi raised his sword, his energy surging like a storm. In one decisive strike, he shattered the prison and ascended into the sky. Dao Xuan, he roared, summoning his might. From the heavens, a colossal sword descended, its glow splitting the darkened clouds. Cao Hong laughed bitterly, raising his staff. Then let us see, he said, whether your Dao is more formidable, or if my Q-Dragon staff reigns supreme.
As the massive dragon and sword clashed in midair, the voices echoed once more, declaring their intent to aid Immortal Master Cao Hong. Cannons were fired, releasing bursts of crimson smoke that spread across the battlefield. The jade figure felt something unnatural. Trees began to sprout from his body. Alarm filled his eyes as roots tore through his flesh, growing rapidly and wrapping him in the red mist. Voices whispered through the haze, recounting the fate of Dao Xuanzi. a Foundation establishment cultivator who had trained for 201 years, wielding a rusted sword as his wondrous item. In the immortal Forsaken Land, he had fallen in battle against Ko Hong, his body destroyed and his Tao extinguished. Li Fan recognized that same voice. It had appeared once before when Ko Hong had died. Bowing deeply, he implored the unseen immortal for mercy, begging for the lives of the 1,000 souls belonging to his clan. The voice responded coldly, noting that Li Fan was one of the mortals whose cries had echoed earlier. It questioned how a mere mortal dared to interfere in a battle between cultivators. Li Fan explained that he sought only a faint chance of survival. If the immortal master had defeated his clan, none of them would have escaped death. The voice repeated his words in contemplation, remarking that the world was cruel and that everyone struggled for that small chance to survive. Li Fan reminded the voice that the Jade Man had once promised salvation to his people. Ko Hong's voice replied that for over 100 years, Dao Xuanzi had appeared to be a man of honor, yet he acted without principle, even deceiving mortals. The great immortal severing formation, he said, was perilous even for cultivators. Leaving it required immense effort. How could mortals possibly pass through? Li Fan was stunned, asking whether the immortal also had no way to leave. The man confirmed it, prompting Li Fan to urge him to continue the discussion elsewhere. He led the cultivator to an underground shelter and asked again if what he said was true. The cultivator answered that he had no reason to deceive a mortal. A golden core cultivator might be able to shield mortals through the formation, but for one at the Foundation establishment stage, it was absolutely impossible. Li Fan then asked if this meant mortals had no hope of ever leaving that world. The man told him that to escape the immortal Forsaken Land, one must pass through the great immortal severing formation, something no mortal body could endure. He said Li Fan was already old, with one foot in the grave, and questioned why he clung so desperately to the idea of leaving. He suggested that life as a local ruler should be enough. Li Fan asked if by cultivating to the Foundation establishment realm like the Immortal Master, mortals could one day leave. The man laughed, explaining that there was no spiritual energy in that place, making cultivation impossible. The immortals and mortals were eternally divided. Mortals there were tainted by miasma, unfit for the path of immortality. He advised Li Fan to abandon the idea. He told him that if a mortal wished to cultivate, they must first journey to the outer world, rebuild their bodies and cleanse the miasma. Otherwise, even if the great path to immortality were placed before them, they could see it but never touch it. Li Fan trembled as he asked if there truly was no way. The cultivator replied that there was none. Bowing again, Li Fan thanked him and said that if the Immortal Master had no further instructions, he would take his leave. As Li Fan departed, the cultivator suddenly sensed danger. The red smoke had filled the chamber. It was the immortal mortal miasma. He screamed in agony as it consumed him. Li Fan stood at the entrance, his voice calm as he declared that if immortals and mortals could not coexist, then a mortal like him could never truly trust an immortal's words.